Welcome back to our channel. Today we're talking about something fascinating. Did you know that there can be more genetic differences between two black Africans than between a black African and a white European? It sounds surprising, right? Well, today we're going to explain why that is. Let's dive in. The first thing you need to know is that Africa is the birthplace of all modern humans. Humans have lived in Africa for around 200,000 years. Because of that, African populations have had the most time to evolve and change, which means they have developed a lot of different genetic traits. This has created a huge amount of genetic diversity across the continent. Think about it this way. Africa has so many different groups of people, and they have been living there for such a long time. Because they lived separately from each other, each group developed its own unique genetic variations. That's why the amount of genetic diversity within Africa is greater than anywhere else on Earth. Now, about 60,000 to 70,000 years ago, some humans started to migrate out of Africa. This group of people was much smaller than the population that stayed behind, and they only carried a small part of the genetic diversity found in Africa. This is called a population bottleneck, which basically means that a smaller group left with fewer genes to spread around. This is why non-African populations like Europeans and others have less genetic diversity compared to people in Africa. Because of this history, two people from different parts of Africa, say someone from West Africa and someone from East Africa, can actually have more genetic differences between them than either one has with a European or an Asian. This is because there is simply more genetic variety in Africa. Scientists have found that about 85 to 90% of all human genetic variation exists within populations, not between them. In Africa, there are so many unique groups of people, like the Khoisan people in southern Africa, who have some of the most distinct genes. The genetic differences between the Khoisan and, for example, the Yoruba people from West Africa can be greater than the differences between a Yoruba person and a European. This shows that genetic diversity in humans is not limited by skin color or race. Most of our genes are actually the same. 99.9% of our DNA is shared among all humans. Traits like skin color, hair type, eye shape, and other physical characteristics are determined by the approximately 0.1% difference in our genes. The visible differences in people are about where their ancestors lived and how they adapted to their environment. These differences are very small compared to the 99.9% of DNA that we have in common. This is why scientists say that race is a social concept rather than a biological one. While genetic differences do exist between populations, most of what shapes people's behaviors, values, and ways of thinking is determined by their history, environment, cultural experiences, life experiences, and worldviews, rather than their biological makeup. The 0.1% genetic difference between individuals is relatively small and does not dictate the wide range of human behaviors and perspectives we see across different cultures and societies. So the next time you hear someone talking about differences between races, remember that two black Africans from different parts of Africa can be more genetically different from each other than either one is from a white European. This is also true for all other non-African populations. The human story is much more connected and complex than we often think, and that's what makes it so amazing. Thanks for watching. If you found this video interesting, make sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to Curious Human, where awareness is your superpower.